This was the first national television program to warn you that Harold Camping was wrong to warn you that the end of the world was coming on May 21st. Harold Camping has claimed to be flabbergasted, his word, that we're still here. He said it's been, quote, a really tough weekend. Really? Tougher than the world ending? Harold Camping is, of course, a fraud and has $72 million in his corporation in anticipation of this particular rainy day. Not so lucky is Robert Fitzpatrick, a retired transportation agency worker. He spent over $140,000 of his life savings on subway posters and outdoor ads. On Saturday at 6 p.m. in Times Square, Reuters reported him as saying, "I do not understand why," as his speech broke off and he looked at his watch. "I do not understand why nothing has happened." We do not understand why. Robert Fitzpatrick doesn't understand why, and we never will. Joining me now is Obery Hendricks, a professor of biblical interpretation at New York Theological Seminary and author of The Politics of Jesus, Rediscovering the True Revolutionary Nature of Jesus' Teachings and How They Have Been Corrupted. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good to be here.
We've seen this many times over the year, or you've seen it as a student of this, these false predictions based on some biblical interpretation that the end is coming. And sometimes the end is coming on a specific date. In fact, Camping had predicted, didn't he say it was going to end in 1994? This is his second shot.
He said that initially, and he said he miscalculated, misunderstood. It really meant the end of the church, not end of the world. And so his followers stepped out of churches, and then they spent all their time demonizing churches.
What is the vulnerability out there that Camping is exploiting when he makes these kinds of predictions?
Well, you know, vulnerability is folk who feel so unempowered to change their lives and to change the world that they feel that all that can happen, all that can help them is for, in the words of Revelation, a new heaven and a new earth to come, or for a rapture to come to just take them up out of this painful existence in earth where they can't make things better for themselves into heaven where things are better. And we see that reflected in gospel music all the time, just leave it to Jesus and that kind of thing. But it really is an expectation or a need built out of hopelessness often and helplessness.
And this doomsday angle has been a very, very profitable business for Camping.
Yes, it has. He's built a huge empire. He has followers who seem to be willing to do most anything for him, and he's a very important man in those circles. Well,
how do you anticipate the failure of that prediction to be processed by Camping followers? What is the typical menu of thought processes that they go through after something like this?
Well, the last time in '94, he said that he miscalculated, and he said it was the end of the church. So we expect him to give some kind of explanation.
He's going to come up with something better than flabbergasted.
It'll be something better, but it'll be, they want to believe. They don't want to believe that they've been snookered and fooled. So they want to believe that this is still coming. But the real harm of this is that this obsession with the end times, we even see those foolish purveyors like Glenn Beck and Michelle Bachmann talk about the end times. The problem with that obsession is that it distracts people from the real message of Jesus, which he articulated in Luke 4 when he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because it's anointed me to preach good news to the poor." And good news to the poor is radical change in the institutions and the relationships and the policies that make people poor and keep them poor. And the religious right has a real investment in keeping folk from being concerned with fighting for fair and just and egalitarian policies, economic policies in this country.
Now, Camping said tonight that he was truly wondering what was going on when Saturday came and went without any extraordinary events. "I went through all the promises God had made. Everything was fitting perfectly." He thought, what in the world happened?
Well, what happened is he overlooked what Jesus said in Mark 13, that no one knows the day or the hour when the world will end, not the angels in heaven.
Even I can remember that passage.
Yes. And that's what these religious fundamentalists do. They overlook what does not fit into their ideological thought process. And that's very sad because, in a way, they're they're ideological Christians. They want to focus on what fits their interests and their needs rather than trying to interpret their own lives and actions in light of the gospel itself.
Aubrey Hendricks of the New York Theological Seminary, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.